Hello, my name is Annika, and welcome to the first video of my channel! Woo! So, I do want to preface this by saying I'm sorry for the audio quality. I have not figured out how to use the editor I plan to be using for most of my videos, and any past recording efforts I have made have not been with my computer. Therefore, I do not have a headset with a microphone that actually works with the technology I am using right now. So, sorry if the audio is not the best. Sorry if there are pops. Sorry if there is jankiness. So, yeah. Now, the topic of this video is something that I have encountered many times in my life, being an artist. You know, I may be young, but whatever. I've still done freelance work, I've still done commissions, I have still encountered this problem a lot. And that problem is people asking for free or even low-priced art. Art is a tool of individual self-expression, and some of us, artists, illustrators, designers, whatever field you are in that is a creative one, some of us choose to make some extra money on the side or use that creative talent or skill to earn some cash, make a living. If anybody is really serious about art, this is something we want to do the rest of our lives. And while there are stable ways to have a creative, artistic career, some of us don't want to go into those areas. And something that I have not really encountered when talking about artists and why they should be compensated and why they should be paid for their work and why it is important to pay creative people for their services is actually the more legal side of it, or logical side of it, where you actually go in depth of what most people would be legally allowed to do when it comes to paying their workers, what it actually takes to run a business, and what the prices of certain things are. So that is what we will be talking about today. We will be talking about why it is important to pay artists for their work, and maybe just a little short-ish explanation as it needs for how artists choose to price their work. I will also say, before I go more in depth with points, I am not going to be diving into other fields other than illustration and more fine arts areas, for the simple reason that I have never been commissioned for any other things. This is kind of my niche for what I have been commissioned for, and my list of commissions is not very long. Okay, it's a short one. So, yeah. Anyways, that leads us to our first point. I think one of the most important things when it comes to paying an artist is considering the cost of supplies, and this goes into why an artist would choose to price their work the way that they do. Now, for physical artists, supplies can cost a lot. Even cheap ones can still be expensive. It's not necessarily a cheap profession. Not that I'm saying any profession is, but just to give you an idea, for Strathmore paper, which is a very common artist paper when you ask artists who use physical supplies, a lot of them tend to use Strathmore. I even use Strathmore. I love their toned gray sketchbooks. The problem is, when you are paying for a art paper as opposed to a ream of printer paper, for a ream of printer paper, you are paying for it to withstand, at the most, pen ink, computer printer ink, and some pencil, depending on what you are doing and what activities are being done with the paper. That is what you are paying for when you pay for a ream of copy paper at a place like Walmart. However, when you pay for something that is an artist quality paper, you are paying for it to withstand all sorts of other mediums. Depending on what paper you buy, you are paying for it to withstand watercolor, acrylic paints, even alcohol markers, things that are going to tear up that paper if it was a regular cheap ream of copy paper. Now, certain Strathmore sketchbooks can cost at least $10. From what I regularly see, I know there are a lot of places that will sell it for cheaper than that. There are certain places that will go higher than that, depending on where you're shopping. I know a lot of art stores, it's kind of a mixed bag depending on the kind of paper you're buying, but most Strathmore paper costs $10 and above, and this is more based off of Amazon prices too, which is a inexpensive way to get most art supplies. Not all, but most, and it's a pretty common way. So Strathmore can cost about $10, if not more, depending on the paper you're getting. Like, I know their cotton watercolor paper can cost anywhere from $20 to $30. You know, it's very expensive, and it is some of the best paper you can buy, but it's just very expensive. And another very common art supply is graphic pencils. The pencil sets that you buy so that way you can make purely graphite drawings. Certain sets of those can cost about $12, if not more. I have seen some of them that cost less, but for the most part, any good, decent set is going to cost about $10 to $12, if not way more, depending on what you're buying. Certain charcoal pencil sets, once again, can cost about $30, if not more, maybe a little bit less, but the good quality ones are about that $30 range. One of the most common art supplies that artists will tend to use is colored pencils, one of the best brands for a really long time, and I would say even to this point now, although I think most artists are switching to things like Faber-Castell or just other more expensive brands because they want their colored pencils to last. And honestly, if you are selling your work, you want your art to look good, and as of late, from what I've heard and what I've seen with Prismacolor, they are not necessarily the best of the best anymore. But a 48 pack of Prismacolors, which are pretty decently priced for the most part when talking about art related supplies, a 48 pack of those costs about $46, if not more. I've seen, depending on where you go and even depending on who's selling on Amazon, they can cost you way more than that. So they are expensive. Art supplies are expensive, and these are some of the most common and best recommended supplies. This does not include things like paints, canvas, brushes, certain digital programs that some artists may use if you are a digital artist. This is just some of the physical supplies that some artists will use, and I will say there are some artists, like myself, who use digital programs and physical supplies. So bottom line is, all of this stuff costs money, and we can't just be constantly using supplies and, you know, giving people free art if we're not earning any money. It's kind of just, it's not feasible in the long run, and I would imagine most artists who want to be career artists, while yes, money may not play the biggest factor in that decision, money is a nice thing to have, and we would like to live and have a house and food on the table. It's not feasible for us to be using our supplies that we spend a lot of money on to give out free art to people. It actually takes time to work on pieces. Even just the speed paint alone, which is not even finished, by the way, is about 3 hours long from what I remember seeing. Time is money, and, you know, everybody says this, but I feel like a lot of people don't really realize when you commission an artist, this is also true. They can't just be scraping by. You can't just expect them to, you know, create an individual piece or just, you know, create a free piece, even if it's off the top of their head, just for you, unless they, of course, explicitly want to do that. Something to think about, conventional jobs have a minimum wage that is required by law for a company to pay an employee. There's labor laws, and you can't have people working for nothing. In the US, while federal minimum wage is about $7.25 an hour, the minimum wage, at least in my state where I live, is $13.50 an hour. That's just something to think about too. This goes a little bit into how artists will price their work, the cost of supplies, as well as the price of somebody's time. Most people will go with at least minimum wage, if not more, because art is a skill, and some people even paid to go to school for it. Why is it so hard for certain commissioning people to grasp the fact that art takes time? Time is money, once again. To go into this last point, artists are trying to make a business. It's a really bad business model if they're just handing out free art willy-nilly. It is okay for an artist to create art for free for people and give it away, but when you're trying to have a business and you have certain people contacting you on a more professional level, and then they just don't want to even pay you for your time. That would be such a horrible business model if every artist gave into what everybody wanted. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to get paid. It's great. Obviously, the main motivator, I would say, for most people who are trying to work in a creative field is because it is fulfilling creatively. We care about our art, we care about our creations. It is not about the money. Artists deserve to be paid for their work because supplies are just ridiculously expensive at times, and they get used a lot and they need to be replaced. We also spend large amounts of time on actually creating our work, so yeah, and that goes into the legality of, things like minimum wage and how much somebody should be at least paid. And for those of us who are trying to create a business, it needs to be a prosperous business. And granted, I know not everybody has that option. Not everybody has a budget that allows for that. There are multiple ways you can support an artist, and if you can afford to commission an artist, by all means do it. I'm not telling you not to, but I do recognize that not everybody can do that. When possible, even supporting them on social media, like, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, those are great ways. Really supporting them in any way that you can is helpful beyond belief. Thanks for coming to my video. Thanks for clicking on it. Thanks for watching. I don't know the next time I will be posting because I have a lot of stuff going on. I have a few things planned for the future. I've already got some video ideas ready-ish. I just have to kind of record the speed paints at this moment for them. This is going to be interesting. I'm giving this a go. I've always wanted to do it, so here we are. I'm not expecting to get very, very big, but hey, if you want to hear me talk about some interesting topics in the future, I have something planned about metamorphosis, if anybody has heard of it. Sharing maybe a little bit more of my artistic journey, maybe some writing stuff. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. I just know there are certain things that I want to talk about that I've already got kind of planned out and ready to go, so yeah. Anyways, I hope you had fun, and I'm gonna peace out. See you later, guys.